Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about the OA Part 2, Episode 1 is called Angel of Death. So, full spoilers for the episode, first of all, and this is notable, and it feels weird to even be talking about this because it's been almost 2.5 years since Season 1.
We were semi-convinced it was never actually going to happen. Even though they'd told us they'd filmed it and they were editing it, I still wasn't sure it actually existed.
Yeah, it's so weird, but it's finally here. There was a nice meaty recap at the start of the episode for me, which was great.
Not for me, there wasn't. Because Netflix has decided I never need these, apparently.
Yes, I don't know why you don't get them, but because it is a separate video, so because certain other things do have them built into the episode. This is a separate little 4-minute video that then once it's
Yeah, I
finished.
get them. Like, if I'm watching, every so often I'll get one for like on a second episode, right? Like you would on traditional TV. I sometimes get those. I never get the ones that are between seasons of Netflix shows.
So season 1 ended with the dance at the school during the shooting, and it was heavily implied that the OA, aka Prairie, aka Nina, went somewhere at the end. We had one quick scene at the end of last season of her waking up in a cell into a locked room, and that we do get to the point where it's clear where she is by the end of the episode for that little scene, but it's just not where she goes immediately. There's definitely there's time to get there, but what this episode actually does is it starts with new characters for a good 20 minutes before we even get to her.
It's longer. It's close. It's almost 30.
Almost 30. And it made me laugh because 30 minutes in, after we finally get to her character, it came up saying Netflix presents, and we got this opening title sequence. Because I remember the first episode of season 1, I remember the titles playing at the end of the episode. Like, they almost treated the whole first episode as the prologue to the whole season.
Yeah.
And I remember liking that. It was kind of a neat thing at the end of the episode saying, no, we've just kind of set this up. And it's, and it felt kind of special.
Yeah.
This did it halfway through the episode, which is fine. But it still felt like, oh no, they've just spent time really establishing, okay, this season's different. Here's what we're doing this time. And then here's your hook to go back to characters from last year. Well, I say last year, 2 years ago. And here's where we're going. So, I think we'll start with her. We'll go to the new characters afterwards, but we'll start with the OA. And we actually, we spend some time with the other characters, of course, but we come to her, and she's speaking with a Russian accent. Now, admittedly, I'd already seen from the trailer, and we'd already kind of, one of the guesses we had at the end of season 1, is that wherever she was going to travel to, it was just going to be straight up an alternate universe. So, we got to her, and she's speaking in a Russian accent, and I went, oh, this is not our Prairie. This is this Earth where she never, she grew up in Russia still, and she's here now. She's in San Francisco now, but she never,
yeah,
and she actually the moment our Prairie got shot, she feels it, and to people around her, they think she's having a heart attack, but she's like, oh, I'm shot, I can see it, and you see in the reflection of her glasses that she sees the broken glass in the window, and just it's a well done little scene. And she's taken to hospital, and then, clearly our Prairie has swapped with her. I mean, whether or not this Nina went to Prairie's body,
I almost took it as traveler's style overriding.
Yeah, I kind of see that. Now, did the other one survive? Did Nina survive? Was Prairie's body screwed because she was shot? Possibly. We might find out later. We might not. Who's to say? That could be the tragic ending of this: is that they have to travel back over, and Prairie goes back, and our body's dead. So she just
could be. Yeah.
That'd be a really sad end to this. But she wakes up, and she's like, "These are not my hands." She sees her face, and she's asking questions. Obviously, the one that was in the trailer was that the nurse asks her, who's president. She's like, Barack Obama, and she's like, who? And then Biden's on TV.
I never actually watched the trailer, by the way.
Did you not?
No.
Okay. But yeah, Biden's on TV. That was the one thing I remembered when she said it in this. I was like, oh yeah, that was in the trailer, her asking that question, her being like, no. Biden wasn't in the trailer, though. We never saw that in the trailer.
Okay.
That gave me a chuckle.
Yeah, it was funny.
So she's up, and because she didn't want to be sedated, and she kind of fights back a little bit. She has this mandatory kind of it's going to be lenient if she opts in to go to a clinic for 14 days and that kind of thing. And I want to say, it was actually, as soon as she opted in to go to this place, I actually guessed what the end of the episode was going to be. Now, admittedly, there was one facet of it that I didn't necessarily get at this point, but I said right then, Hap is running this place. Wherever she's going, Hap is running it. However, I had not considered the possibility that it was our Hap who'd already switched over from our Earth. Because obviously we knew they were going to try. Because the last time we saw him in season 1, it was when he dumped her and we never saw him again, right?
Yeah.
And I got it before she saw him, because it was when she's going down the hall. And
it's his body language.
It's not even. It was when she's walking past the cells, and it's all the people from the cells from season 1.
Okay, I'm with
and
you.
and then they recognise her, and I was like, wait a minute, what if he's already jumped over?
Yeah.
And then it was like, he recognises her, and it's like, oh, and obviously this fish tank, this hallway, this is where Homer went for that one time in season 1. So all this stuff I was like, ooh, this is exciting. Oh, I missed the show. I missed all this wackiness, but in a really sort of ethereal way, and kind of like, the way the OA does.
It's still very different, isn't it?
It's very different, yes. That's it. I've skipped over her going back to her house and like finding out her father was still alive. Well, it was alive until recently. He was shot in the last couple of years, but he did live too much longer. She was never blind.
She was never adopted.
Never adopted, of course. She speaks to her, her adopted mother on Skype, and she's like, I don't know who you are, and she's like, oh, you picked the boy, but was there a girl there? And she never was. If I have any complaints about all this stuff, the only thing I would say is that there was maybe a point where she should have started predicting that people wouldn't know what she was talking about, and she never kind of did. She kept just always assuming people would understand, or like her mother would know her. And I'm like, at this point, you've already like accepted that you've swapped places with this Nina,
and you've accepted that it's a different life.
Yeah, so even like you might not know for sure that you never met this who your mother was in the other world, but
it became clear very quickly. Yeah,
it's like for everything after that, you should have understood that anything you think you knew might not be true anymore. So I felt like she wasn't approaching it in a way, and I guess you could just argue she's just caught up in it and she's not thinking clearly and whatever. But it just, after a while, it was like you would start to expect people to not have the answers you're expecting.
Yeah,
but I mean, fairly minor on the grand scheme of things though, because I was still into everything, and finding out she's now trapped again with Hap with the others, without Homer, but with this world's Homer with a beard who works at this place.
Yes, he's a doctor.
Yeah, so that was very interesting. I thought. So I mean, did you like all this stuff? This side of the episode?
Some of it.
Some of it, okay.
I think I had a bit of a initial disappointment in that I think I'd hoped that we wouldn't get to this immediately. So much of the first season was to believe her or not, right? Like so much of that season was about faith versus science, essentially. Like, what they knew, and then what she was telling them, whether they believe in the story, and even down to the final moment, like even that very final moment of her, waking up in the cell, you could still read that as, well, maybe, but not definitely.
I mean, I guess the counter to this is that they had to clearly answer. If they're doing a season 2, they had to answer at some point.
They did.
Unless we didn't do her story, unless we just sort of went in new characters and never went back to her.
Yeah, that's possible. I think I was. Maybe we'd stick with like the friends for like an episode.
Sure.
And have them be like.
Right. I will say I missed them. I missed having the group from
Yeah.
The present day story. Fellas from The Office and the kids. Like I missed.
Yeah, and I think that's what I was a little disappointed we weren't getting that, and having them question. Is she just dead, or did it work? We didn't, because we last season ended on such a big moment. It was like, wait, what happened? They had no concept of time to process of whether it had worked or not.
I think I really like this in a like sci-fi show sense. Like, I love that now she's here, and now we're playing with the idea that her and Hap and the others have travelled over.
I agree. I think I'd have preferred to ease into that rather than just to go, right, screw it, this is all what we're doing now. It was a bit jarring.
I mean, you've looked at 8 episodes. Like, I feel
Yeah.
They're getting the ball rolling. I love the ending. I got excited. I was like, oh, it's our Hap. Our Hap is
That
here.
last like 2 minutes is the best bit of the episode.
Um, well,
I think.
from what you just said, does that mean you did not enjoy the new characters and that plot?
I don't dislike it. I just don't care. I'm like, that first half an hour chunk. I'm like, what am I doing? I said to you, I checked 3 times just to make sure I'd clicked on the OA when I was watching that because I wasn't convinced that I had.
Yeah, but one of your complaints is that they got to all the stuff with Prairie and that too quickly. Now you're complaining that you didn't know you were watching
something completely different. My point is, I feel like this half an hour chunk at the start, spend that with the friends in our universe from last season. Spend that with them questioning whether or not it worked, and then we can move over to Prairie. You're going, oh, we've only got 8 episodes.
Yeah, but yes, like I mean, if conceptually they have no intention of ever revisiting that Earth until Prairie goes back. And I understand why they make that choice, because she's our character, she's our lead. I kind of get it, like...
No, I get it, and I feel if you're not doing that, start with Prairie. Start with something I give a shit about, right, already. Don't start with a half an hour of something entirely new.
Nah, I don't agree with this. I'm fine with this, because there's a mystery to it of, okay, when are we getting to that stuff? I don't have a problem with this. I feel like this is not an actual objective complaint. This is a taste thing. This is purely... a subjective thing conceptually that you don't like.
Myself, because it was quite an extended chunk. I found myself multiple times found myself being checked out of what they were telling me and what was happening because I wanted to see what was going on with characters that I cared about already. That's why I'm back for season 2 of this show. I want to see what's going on with them.
So much of season 1, though, like you say, was the build up and the mystery. And these new characters are where we're getting that. And
I'm not saying don't do this at all in the episode. I'm saying structurally, don't start with such an extensive chunk of this. Because
see, this is the thing. When it got to 30 minutes in, and it got to this Nina in that moment, I got really excited because it comes up at the start saying like 7 hours earlier, right? It makes it clear that this is 7 hours before the end of the last season.
Yeah.
So you're building up to that moment. So there's kind of this like. Okay, when is it going to intersect in some way? And it never actually did directly. It wasn't like the plot intersected with it. It was just, no, once we get to that time and day in this plot, that will also happen. But no, this plot, like I'm actually really intrigued with this plot, and it got more intriguing as it went on, because we have this private investigator who's paid to track down this missing girl. This Vietnamese woman comes by to his place that he lives by the docks, and he's given this task of finding her. She's only about 18. And... She was living with this family, kind of like a, not quite foster care, because she was old enough that it wasn't really fostering, but it was more like a community outreach kind of thing. And she disappeared mysteriously, but she deposited $30,000 into her mum's account before she disappeared, which is very suspicious given that she was basically homeless. And it leads to this game, this cell phone game that people are playing, and it was about solving puzzles. And I immediately started thinking, okay, how does this relate to, like, everything we did last season? Because it felt like it did. Like, it started, especially when he meets like this girl who runs this house with all these people doing this, and I think it's actually one of the houses from the first season they're in.
It might well be, yeah.
And they're because the first house he goes to where the girl he's looking for was hiding, the kid takes him there. That window on the top of the house, that was from season 1. I remember that.
I'll take your word for it. I didn't remember that specifics well enough.
But and he has this thing where there's this kid who's like hopped up on this game, like dives out the window, and he's looking into this, and it's this idea of becoming obsessed. And I think the point of this game is to do what what Hap was doing. This is on this Earth. This is what Hap was trying to achieve. Is that the people behind this that turns out to be this billionaire, Pierre Ruskin, this Silicon Valley dude,
trying to discover the movements.
Try to discover the movements through this app game. It's basically, instead of this mad scientist like Hap doing it, and imprisoning people,
it's Silicon Valley.
It's Silicon Valley version of that. But then we also find out that he's dating Nina, so it means that Nina on this Earth is involved in this. So I think it's very interesting that Prairie's counterpart was also involved in this in some way. Now, she may not have been, like, I don't know, the implication is she maybe wasn't as nice a person, but maybe I'm just making some leaps on that.
Yeah, I would agree that she wasn't inherently likable.
Yeah, but maybe there'll be
Uh,
like depth to her that we don't get yet. We'll learn more about her through
yeah.
various events. Interestingly, we never see his face in this episode, but Ruskin's played by Vincent Kartheiser, who of course was the son of Angel, who he was a spin-off of the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Do you know what's really bad is
Yeah,
I don't recognize that name. This is going to be a stupid Buffy reference.
that wasn't that stupid though, because that was like one of the characters on the show. Because sometimes I'll do a little domino game where I get to someone on the
You
show.
will. You'll play 7 steps.
Yeah, I don't mind doing that. You know I don't.
I know this was less stupid, but because I didn't recognize the name, I went, ugh, it's this.
This was Connor Angel. Was this Connor spelt the same as yours was?
Oh no.
Let's find out.
No one who is on this review gives a shit about how Connor Angel was spelt.
I care. I was spelt the same as yours was.
That's a very common spelling.
Well, no, it makes sense though, because obviously Angel's supposed to be Irish originally, and you come from an
Yes.
Irish family, so it makes sense that it's the same spelling. Because I feel like the one with the E is the not Irish variation.
I will tell you now, mine isn't even the full Irish spelling.
Oh, I'm sure it's something stupid, whatever the.
Did you want to know the full Irish
Oh,
spelling?
go on, give me it.
And I say this who I grew up with a friend who had the full Irish spelling.
Oh, go on.
It's CONNAIRE.
That's stupid. No, he should change his name. His name is stupid. I'm not having it.
Yeah. So
I would
small mercies, I guess.
If I met him and I seen his name written down first, I'd be like, Conair. How are you?
Yeah, yeah. He got that a lot at school.
Oh, Conair. Yeah, he's basically the Nicolas Cage movie.
Yep, there we go. It took you a second. that was about 6 years of jokes.
That's pretty good. Oh well. Oh well. Anyway, so no, I'm digging this. And actually, I didn't know Zendaya was going to be in this. She was a surprise when she popped up.
I had no idea that she was there either.
As the gamer girl. That feels like a weird way of phrasing it because it's not games in the traditional sense, but she's trying to achieve this game because the game pays out money, and like most people get to level 3 where you get like $5,000, or most people do 1, 2. A lot of people have gotten to 3, and then no one's gotten to 4, which is what they think this missing girl's done because she had that much because it was $50,000.
Yeah.
So the fact that she gave her mother over 30 implies she did that, and then level 5 is $1 million. Maybe implying that whoever unlocks level 5 unlocks the secret to jumping.
Quite possibly, yeah.
But that was the impression I was getting, and I was intrigued by all this, especially learning that the alternate Prairie was involved in it. For me, that was like, okay, this is interesting because it's like, no,
Fair enough.
they both ended up in kind of looking for the same thing, even though their lives were so different. There was there's some stuff there. I think
I didn't hate it. I just thought it was a lot of time spent on it in the first episode that I could have done with less focus. And I thought the detective character just a bit bland. Wasn't that interesting to all the mysteries there, but it's all through his perspective, his eyes, and I'm like, give me something about him to.
I thought he was likable enough. I mean, I don't know. I don't have a problem with him. Actually, it's worth mentioning when he goes sneaking around the building. He sneaks in with the cleaners. He sees tons of people lying in beds, implying that the people who are going missing are the ones who maybe get as far as level 3, are then taken almost like the way Hap took people, but on a grander scale.
Maybe voluntarily as well. Like
maybe voluntarily, yeah.
Once you get to this level, it comes up like, right, go to this address.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps they're being well paid for this, but we see this circle of beds, and it's at least a couple hundred people, well, maybe 100 people, all like in these beds in a circular formation, and it was making me think of the cells in season 1. It was in that octagon kind of shape.
I'm with you.
So I was like, okay, I'm intrigued. It's kind of slowly bringing me back. Do you know what I think is really interesting is I was worried that it'd been so long since season 1 that I'd forgot so much, and I definitely have forgotten some details, but I feel like this episode was, because it was such a fresh start, it actually not benefited from the time away, but it worked with the time away to not be difficult to ease back into, which is maybe why I don't mind that it took time, like setting up new things, because it didn't make me feel like I was lost or I was Like, oh,
Yeah,
like,
no, I'm with you. So I think it was too long a chunk for me. Without
I mean, okay, let me phrase it this way, right? Because you've been a bit more down in this episode. Are you optimistic about the rest of the season? Are you optimistic about episode 2? Are you looking forward to watching episode 2?
it's a fair question. I don't know. Because I really like that. Okay, once we got to Prairie at the end, and and okay, Hap's there. I'm like, yes, this is what I love. This is what I'm here for. I'm like, okay, show me this stuff, and I'm looking forward to that for sure in episode 2 at least, because I assume that's where we're going to pick up.
Hmm.
Um, the other stuff, I don't know. I'm just kind of middling on it. I'm not like, oh, I hate this, but I'm not looking forward to it either.
Okay. I mean, I liked it
Which,
more than you did for sure.
for the season as a whole, I don't know how much we're going to focus. I don't know
Yeah.
what the split's going to be.
I liked it more than you did for sure. I'm actually really
Yeah.
excited, and I think some interesting details to think about is: did Hap ever know that she got, she became, cured from her blindness? Did he ever know that? And even though she's not blind just now, is he going to assume that's just because she's in
The other body,
the new body, essentially? And what, because had they already jumped by the time that had happened and she showed back up? Because they might have done. Because remember, he dumped her and she was still blind. It was after that she showed up with being cured. So I'm curious as to what he makes of that. I think it's really interesting from her character perspective that she's basically landed in her nightmare where she's back under his control. And she's
it
here.
didn't go so well, did it?
Yeah, she's here voluntarily for 14 days, but now that he's in charge and he's got her,
He's got her.
Yeah,
that's it. She's screwed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he can just say, "Oh no, she's a danger to herself. She's not getting out." Like, he can write whatever he wants
Almost
in those
so.
reports. So,
because who knows how long they've all been down in those cells?
Yeah, which also makes me curious. Like, if they are swapping places with the counterparts on the first Earth, like, what did Hap from this Earth? Like, what's he doing now on the main Earth with the other characters? Are they just trying to figure out who they are and why they're there?
And if they don't swap, if it's just a case of they obviously with Prairie it was easy enough that we can just assume maybe the body died, right?
Yeah.
With someone like Hap, what happened with the body? What happens when they leap out?
Yeah, is it a swap or have they overwritten the people on this Earth and they're just gone?
Yes, and if it's an overwritten though, with the body that he's jumped out of, what happens to that? Because there's no brain personality in there, right? There's the body's still alive.
I suppose it could present itself as someone in a vegetative state. So maybe like someone will find them and they'll be like in a hospital somewhere, just on life support.
Be, yeah.
I could see them playing it that way so that we could go back into the original bodies. But like maybe there's nothing in there just now.
Because it'd be really easy to explain that with Prairie. She was shot, she's in a coma, right?
Here's an interesting question though: if they didn't swap and they just essentially erased the people on this Earth, obviously I don't think Hap gives a shit. But I think for OA, she's going to, like, that'll be if she discovers that at some point, I think that necessarily puts a damper on her achieving what she was setting out to do in the first place, right?
Yeah, and I think
because there's this dark side effect. She's essentially murdered someone.
There is, and I think right now it's a case of, okay, I'm stuck with Hap again. Let's try and jump somewhere else, right?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
That would, if I were her, that would be one of my first instincts. I'd be right, okay, let's try and escape again. But if she learns that you're essentially killing people by doing that, does that give her, second thoughts?
I think it would. I think it would give anyone second thoughts. Unless you're jumping back to your original Earth, in which case...
Yeah, but have they got that control, right? Because I'm assuming there's more than just the two at this point.
I mean, yeah, but that is an assumption. I mean, maybe...
It is an assumption, yeah.
Maybe every Earth requires a different dance, so maybe doing the same dance only gets you back to... the original Earth. Or maybe even that one's a different dance. Maybe they can't just jump back because...
Yeah, maybe they can't, no.
It's like, oh no, there's a different dance on this.
So maybe they're stuck here, yeah.
And that's relevant to the game because they have to discover it for this Earth. Or, it's almost like each Earth to go to has its own code. So to go back to the original
it's
one...
like a different pin code.
Yeah, different pin code, there you go. Different area code. Different IP address. Maybe that's the best way of putting it. But it's interesting though, and I'm in for the ride. I might discover and find out. And even if Cora gets really moody and quits the show, don't worry, guys. I'll keep watching it and talking about it. Don't panic. Always coming.
Yeah. Well, I know. I get why you're so into this. I do. As I say, I think it's just a taste thing, especially with that first, because everything with Prairie I was into, barring my initial disappointment that we were just we're straight onto this other Earth, right? But that one I'm willing to go. No, that's just on me. That I'm not holding that against it.
Yeah. I also I like the scene with Zendaya's character with the detective. What's his? I didn't remember. I didn't remember these new names. Kareem. When they're on the stairs and he's trying to solve the puzzle, and she kind of like, at the end when he finally gets it, because it's like one of the easier levels, and he solves this puzzle. She's like, "Oh, now you know how it feels," and it's kind of playing with this idea of like this being like a drug, where there's this like this dopamine hit from succeeding. And that's kind of what they're all addicted to. Is trying to unlock the next level. But it's interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, it's all right.
So I'm curious to see how we play with this, and get the one true Connor properly next episode, maybe. Most people are probably known from Mad Men now, but I mean, he's always going to be Angel's son to me.
I'm never going to hear the end of this, am I? Last season.
Just think, your dad could have been Angel.
Oh boy.
Alright, that has been episode 1 of the OA part 2. I'm pumped. Connor's been Connor, but that's fine. We will talk about episode 2. The aim is every other day, as best as we can keep that up. However, it is worth mentioning that next Friday another Netflix show is launching, as well as an Amazon show, so it's entirely likely that we're going to have to start alternating through them, which won't necessarily be every day. We'll try our best to try and do that, but it's going to be busy city for us in terms of covering all the TV shows over the next couple of weeks. So bear with us.
Netflix is a dick, and Amazon's not helping.
Amazon's not helping. So I mean, the first few should probably be fairly consistent, but then once it starts alternating with other shows, we'll do the best we can to keep this consistent and try and get it done within 2 or so weeks total. But so bear with us. If you're on the Netflix audio feed, then cool. If you're not on the Netflix audio feed and you want the audio feed, there's a almost cancelled Netflix review audio feed. There's a link in the description to that. You can check out our audio feed as well. If you want to support the show and the channel and everything we do here, you can over to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, where you can support us for as little as $1 per month, get some bonuses, get some stuff early, get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz, but otherwise that is us. So thank you once again for watching and listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?